All right, let's talk about some of the things that are going on right now, some successes you've had. Bipartisan support on a bill to improve security in prisons as far as camera systems and everything like that. Obviously a good win for you.
Yeah, camera systems, public address systems, perimeter security. I led a long-term investigation of corruption and misconduct and abuse in the federal prison system, a bipartisan investigation alongside a Republican colleague. And one of the things that we found is that the security systems in federal prisons are completely inadequate. And that is not just a matter of safety on the inside, that impacts public safety. We're talking about outside criminal enterprises being run from within prisons, where contraband flows freely in and out. It's a major threat to community safety. So I passed bipartisan legislation bringing Republicans and Democrats together to upgrade security systems at federal prisons.
All right, other things you're working on. I know pecan farmers, big in this area, huge in this area. You've been able to get some things done as far as reducing tariffs on U.S. exports. I know India coming in line. I know that's another thing you certainly have to be cognizant of and proud of.
Yeah, I'm very focused on Georgia agriculture, and I sat down with some pecan growers in Tifton last June, and they requested that I get involved to reduce the 100% tariff, the 100% import tax that the government of India had imposed on U.S. pecan exports. And just so folks think this through, you're talking about more than 1 billion consumers in the Indian market, but that 100% tariff means that Georgia pecans really can't go there. Mm-hmm. I met 7 times with the Indian ambassador. I led a trade delegation to India, pressed the administration to make this their top priority. And a couple of weeks ago, we were able to secure a 70% cut on that tariff. That's going to open this huge market for Georgia pecan growers.
How difficult is it to get that thing? Is it just something that takes time and that is not a quick fix, but you have to build the foundation in order to get stuff like this done?
I find that persistence and hard work and relationship building are what enable me to deliver for Georgia. You know, you're not going to find me popping up on national cable news just to stir up controversy or saying something ridiculous on social media to get attention. I try to stay out of that circus and instead build strong working relationships with Republicans and Democrats both, and focus relentlessly on Georgia's interests.
Maternal health, very important to you. A maternal health rate, especially among the black community in Georgia, not good. Your efforts there.
A very high priority. And I think it's particularly resonant to me why this is so important with a 14-month-old baby daughter at home. And of course, my wife is an obstetrician. And the maternal mortality rate in Georgia is completely unacceptable. I have worked very diligently to increase resources for maternal health care, for prenatal care, for neonatal and pediatric care for infant children. We've got a long way to go in the state of Georgia, and I'm going to stay focused on it.
Do the numbers alarm you when you look at the numbers, like when concerning maternal mortality rates? Do they kind of jump at you and you say, wow, we need to do something?
The numbers are seriously alarming. Georgia's maternal mortality statistics put us on par with some countries around the world that are much less developed than the United States. This is the United States of America, and women are needlessly suffering and dying during and from complications associated with childbirth. That is unacceptable, and that's why I've made maternal health and neonatal and pediatric health such high priorities.
Switching gears a little bit, railroad crossings, right up the road in Forsyth, Monroe County. People in the community there, railroad trains come, stop, they can't get through, emergency vehicles. I know you're starting to work towards getting some solutions there.
Yeah, I have launched an inquiry with the Federal Railroad Administration aimed at understanding how we can solve this problem. Because it's not just a matter of inconvenience. If a delivering mother is in labor and is stuck at a railroad crossing for an hour and a half, or if a parent is on their way to pick up their child from school and is stuck at a railroad crossing for 2 hours, an ambulance, these can have very, very serious consequences in people's daily lives. And it's not just here in the Macon area. Across Georgia and across the country right now, We're seeing serious delays at railroad crossings, and that's why I've launched this inquiry with the Federal Railroad Administration, and I'm going to press them to get some substantial answers to me.
Debt ceiling, hot topic right now. People are worried what's going to happen, what has to be cut, will anything be cut? What your thoughts on how we get to there?
Look, I think the first thing is that both sides have to talk to each other, and we can't retreat into our partisan corners and make this into a political issue. We need to get to a solution that is in the national interest, that is prudent and carefully considered. And I think the most important thing is that the United States cannot default. That is an unacceptable outcome. If the United States defaulted on its debt, these are bills we've already incurred. If we didn't pay them, interest rates would skyrocket. Inflation would skyrocket. Capital markets would be seriously negatively impacted. Folks' retirement savings would be seriously negatively impacted. And we would likely have a recession, if not a depression. Default is not an option. What we need to do is work together based upon mutual respect and arrive at a solution that everybody can agree to.
The difficulty in getting both sides to come together and to even talk to one another.
I think in some ways I don't fit in too well in Washington right now because there is so much negativity and a focus on partisan interest over the national interest. But I do want to point this out. What we did with the bipartisan infrastructure legislation that we passed, which is removing lead pipes from drinking water systems. It's upgrading seaports and airports across the state and across the country. It's expanding broadband internet access into our rural areas, improving road and bridge safety, these fundamental quality of life and economic competitiveness priorities. We accomplished that with Republicans and Democrats working together. That's the kind of solution that I'm constantly pursuing, and that's what I'm able to best deliver for Georgia.
You find it's always important to find common ground to kind of start these conversations?
We've got to find common ground, and that doesn't mean that we won't disagree. It's okay to disagree based upon principles. We should do so with civility. We should do so with mutual respect. But in order for us to solve problems and actually get things done, we have to work together. We have to talk. We have to try to understand one another's points of view. And that's the spirit that I bring to my service in the Senate.
One other thing, the Chinese spy balloon that was shot down, your thoughts on that?
A gross and unacceptable violation of U.S. sovereignty and a serious national security issue. And as a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, I am very closely monitoring these developments and focused relentlessly on the safety and security of families here in Georgia and our national security.
I know you obviously talk to people all the time, and there are people out there, I'm sure you hear it, who are worried about where the country's going, the future. How do you talk to those people? What do you say to them to kind of alleviate some of those fears?
Well, look, what we're doing with this infrastructure legislation and the way that it is improving Georgia's economic future, I think should give us optimism about our state's future. What worries me is the extent of division and even hate in politics. We have to remember that we are one people. We're one nation. And our shared identity as Americans is so much more important than our political party or our ideological label. And if we don't remain grounded in that, then I think that the risk of politics tearing this country apart is serious. But again, that's why I focus on working together, on bringing Republicans and Democrats together to focus on solutions and to deliver for Georgia.
With a very young child, are you optimistic about the country your child will grow up in? Are you optimistic about the future?
I am optimistic. And I think that our country's best days are ahead of us. I think our state's best days are ahead of us. It's going to take focus and hard work. It's going to require us to work together as Americans, as Georgians. But I am very confident that Georgia's best days and America's best days remain in front of us.
That's a good way to finish. Anything else you'd like to add?
I think we covered it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Pleasure.
your time.
Of course, anytime.
My pleasure.